In 1998, Ted Chiang wrote The Story of Your Life. Not literally the story of your life, that was the title of the story that he wrote. Confused yet? You will be, because this is a look at Arrival, the film based on that story, directed by Denis Villeneuve, starring Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner and Forest Whitaker. This was very interesting, and thank you James for saying the next film I watch must be this, because I was going to do something else in this slot, but I went no, I will watch it, he's recommended it, and I can see why. My interest in linguistics and sci-fi and time travel, all well serviced by this film. I thought it was a great piece, well paced, very gripping. Some of the moments were very interestingly well done, the change in gravity, etc. It was all a great ride from start to finish, but that was one of the confusing elements of this film for some, the start to finish idea, the fact that we experience things in a linear fashion. A must be followed by B, which must be followed by C, and so on. But this film offers us a different idea. What about if Z came first, and then B? Then we might skip forward to M, and then maybe jump back to, I don't know, E, maybe F. We don't have to experience things in a linear fashion, it's just the way that we've always done it. And again, one of my other great loves is non-linear storytelling. From the start of this film, I thought, that all this history with her daughter was history. But no, we were actually seeing the end of the film, if you will, at the beginning. And there are a number of films that have done it, but not very many that have done it like this. Like I say, my love of languages and science fiction, comes from the fact that I hold both an artistic spirit and a scientific spirit within me. I think that they don't have to be mutually exclusive, and that's something that I think this film does explore. The fact that you can have the language of science. It's why we needed both Ian and Louise. We needed them both to interpret and to explain to the heptapods how we see the world, so that eventually a mutual middle ground of understanding could be reached. Now, of course, we see it all over the shop when there's aliens and things like that in film, that the human race has a tendency to get on the offensive. Or defensive, I suppose. If you feel you're being invaded, you are kind of defending your territory, your people. And that's obviously where the Chinese and their allies come into this. It's very much we don't know what their intent, what their intents are. And also, the CIA agent as well, to a degree, kind of. But again, they're all very focused on that defense, intelligence, always expecting the worst, kind of out of humanity. There are riots, there are protests, there are people who feel that religion has failed them. People probably would commit suicide because their whole worldview would be shattered. It's something that I think, would expect, but only through an attempt to understand, an attempt to reach a common ground, can this film and can this story come to the conclusion that it did. And I think it's a very hopeful message. Should we be visited at some point in the future by beings from another planet, unless Elon Musk actually is one in disguise. I'm getting stronger to that belief, But we want to act like that. We want to be cautious, granted, but open and willing to the opportunity that is presented. But I love this film, like I say, for the non-linear storytelling. The fact that they bring the sapir-whorf hypothesis, where, immersion into a language is really the best way. It's where you get properly fluent. And fluent kind of means thinking in the language too. Only when Louise becomes fluent to a degree can she see the future to influence the present. It's only when she becomes fully fluent that the understanding is reached. And that's not necessarily true for all languages that we know, but it is a good way to think about it. Languages are only at their best when you are fluent in them, when you know them inside and out. Like I say, it's the way that she links into their thought process. She becomes able to think like they do and gain the information, like I say, from the future to help her now. And that's what leads to, hopefully, the salvation of both Earth and the heptapods. But I did love the fact that her daughter was a palindrome, Hannah. H-A-N-N-A-H. Same forwards as backwards. Not quite like the film, but it does reinforce the message. But of course that was a very sad tale, and when we thought that that was her impetus to going into, sort of teaching, it was very different than when we sort of know that it was actually after the fact. It does really change how the film goes when we get that reveal, and I do concede that that was a very possibly studio-led idea for the common denominator, if you will. Being diplomatic here. A way of making sure everyone's on the same page for the ending. I did like, the fact that they did reinforce it for those who maybe didn't figure it out earlier on, that this wasn't necessarily before the events of the film. But I do find, sort of to give a bit of a closing thought here, Louise's strength was amazing. She goes through this film learning suddenly, that she can see time very differently. She can pull data from the future to influence now. And she knows that she will lose Hannah, and possibly lose Ian, it's hinted at. And she still goes through with it. That's great strength. I mean, could you argue, predestination paradox here? If she doesn't do all that, then she doesn't get the information, and therefore she can't save the heptapods on Earth. It does become perhaps paradoxical, but I don't think it matters. I think somehow she would have still found that information. I don't think time is necessarily that inflexible. Just my opinion on it. But like I say, it shows great strength of character that she still will go ahead to this. I mean, if everyone is starting to get on the same page as the heptapods with their non-linear approach to time, we're all going to know the bad things that are going to happen to us, but we'll carry on anyway. And that's what I think this film is. It's a testament to the human will. When you are willing to open yourself up to new possibilities, to new opportunities, great things can happen. Doesn't always work out, but a lot of the time it does. And if that's the lesson to take away from this, then I think it's a good one. But I do hope you'll join me for the next few weeks. I've got something special planned. No big reason apart from I've just gone, I haven't done that yet. So I do hope you'll join me then. But until then, as always, take care.